People have joined us as well. The next person to be speaking is Stephen Treves. Stephen has worked in the behavioral health care field since 1978. He currently serves as the Executive Director of the Community Mental Health Center for Mid-Eastern Iowa. He is also an adjunct faculty in the School of Social Work at UI and is board member of the Iowa Association of Community Providers. He'll be talking to us about mental health services in Iowa.
I would join the rest of the panelists in saying thanks, and I said to Jeffrey at the break, whenever you're asked to be on a panel, ask how many pastors are on the panel. And if there is more than one, say no. I'm a social worker, and in my DNA is optimism and being positive. Today I'm coming from a perspective of the mouse, of not being neutral, and of coming from a perspective of not being talking about primarily healthcare, but talking about discrimination. Words that I've heard is attitude, that Iowa attitude, fear of others, a perspective, barriers. I'm coming to talk from the perspective of people with mental illness and how that is a population, the invisible disability, that is supremely discriminated against. About 17% of us meet the criteria of good mental health. 17% of us. As you probably know, mental illness's onset, 50% of mental illness's onset occurs before age 18, and 75% of the onset occurs before age 25. One of the ways that people with mental illness are discriminated is that they die 25 years earlier than people without mental illness. Not a much better way to get discriminated than that. During street encounters, police officers are almost twice as likely to arrest someone who appears to have a mental illness than a person that doesn't. There are 10 times more people with mental illness behind bars than in state psychiatric hospitals. So there's kind of the context which I'm speaking from. But I'm a social worker, so I can't keep the optimism out of any presentation that I make. One of the things that we're discovering in healthcare is the connection between behavioral health care and primary or physical health care, and really beginning to pay attention to that. As we look at healthcare evolving, we're looking at the integration of those two things. The things that I would like you to take away before Shams puts up the card that I need to sit down is that mental health is a recoverable disease. Let me say it again. Mental health is a recoverable disease. Let me say it one more time. People that are diagnosed with mental health, with a mental illness, recover from that illness. It's one of the most treatable chronic illnesses that we face. An individual with a psychiatric illness is 10 times more likely to be the victim of violence than the perpetrator of violence. So when we begin to look at and when we begin to pay attention to mental illness, one of the biggest barriers to care is the stigma that we put out around mental illness. Not many of us would say, you know that leukemia? It's all in your head. That blood pressure medication, stop taking it. Cardiovascular disease, it's just an attitude that you have. It's a personality flaw. When we're able to put a ribbon out for mental illness like we do for breast cancer, part of my work will be done. So one of the things that we need to look at is let's look at mental illness and those sets of diagnoses as a chronic disease that it's very recoverable from. Some of the solutions that we're already beginning to implement and we need to begin to pay attention is early intervention for the treatment of mental illness. When we begin to look at the data that says 50% of mental illness occurs at 18, 75% of it occurs by 24, what's happening to our individuals in our population that are ages between 18 and 24? Well, a lot of them are in this room going to the University of Iowa. A lot of them are beginning to start their academic careers, their professional careers. They're starting to form relationships. They're really beginning to identify who they are. If that's when mental illness begins to set in, we discombobulate that whole process. So early intervention, empowering individuals with those diagnoses so they can advocate for themselves, and developing collaborative and multidisciplinary teams to treat mental illness. I'm going to secede or give up my extra time to the other panelists. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Steve. Our next speaker I've known for the last 4 years when I got involved in immigrant rights, and I didn't realize he had a last name till today. Sergio Awang. Sergio is originally from the Dominican Republic of Congo. He has lived in Iowa City since 2001. He is a board member of the Center for Worker Justice and a member of the Teamsters Union. He founded the Immigrant Voices Project and has been named 2014 Someone to Watch by the Iowa City Press Citizen. Sergio will be speaking to us about the immigrant experience in Iowa and his personal experiences related to this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. I've been here since 2001, and I'm the founder of the Center for Worker Justice. So 2 years ago, a group of concerned citizens and immigrants, union members, workers, got together and decided to conduct a survey right here in Iowa City area. The survey was based on different topics, range from law enforcement, affordable housing, wage theft, healthcare, daycare, childcare, and we interviewed, roughly speaking, 250 people, and it was conducted in 18 different languages. And the result we received were not encouraging. So from there we said, you know what, let's organize, because only by organizing we will get some things done here. People like this community, it's very attractive, it's very diverse, and people will continue to come here. But we need to have some improvement. Like the senator said, wage theft is a big thing here. A lot of us don't know it. People are not paid what they deserve, what they work for. We start organizing and fighting to raise the minimum wage. I'll give you an example. Earlier this year, a lady from Togo came to us saying that she worked for about 2 months for the Outback restaurant in Coralville. I believe it's now closed. And the picture you see there, that's we went to ask for her to get paid. She worked there for 2 months. And this lady is a mother of 5, waking up 2 o'clock in the morning to go clean the restaurant and then not be paid. That's not fair. So we organized, we went, and we demanded so she can get paid. And just yesterday we received the Department of Labor contacted us saying that they received a check, I believe around 2,000 or so, that will be mailed to her. So that's a we're very happy about that. Since last year up to now, we have recovered about $8,000 of wage theft. That's not bad. So we will go after those employers. We will go after them. We organize, we give a workshop where we educate our members. We have about 300 members. We educate them about the law that already exists. A lot of people come here in this community, in this country, they don't know the law. How to interact with the police, that's a problem, especially with the immigrant community. And we have held meetings with the elected officials to ask why these differences between the law enforcement and the community. What's going on? We want to know from their side what they can do to make it better and what we can do to make it better. So they've been very helpful. They've had officers coming to our communities and explain to us the law, because when you're a newcomer, sometimes you can do things that you don't know the law. You're going to do something that then you get yourself into trouble. So we just wanted to have a better understanding how the law works so that everybody follows it. The picture there, that was at Johnson County. There's a lady, she was arrested for driving without a license. She had 2 kids in the car. She was coming from the store. She was arrested around 4 o'clock and taken to jail. We got together, post messages on Facebook to go at the Johnson County and ask for her to be released. I think by 10 o'clock, by 7, there were over 100 people from the jail. And by 10, she was released. We believe that just the fact of not having an ID shouldn't take you to jail. As a matter of fact, we're now fighting for everybody to have an ID. There are people here in this community that do not have a driver license, don't have an ID. Some of them are from here in this country, coming from Illinois, a different part of the country. Some are victims of domestic violence. Some are lost their documentation during the floods, like we had in 2008. So, in today's society, without an ID, what can you do? You can have a bank account. You can have a credit card. You cannot go to a library and get a book, to rent a book, a movie. So it's very difficult, very difficult. And we are now campaigning to see if everybody, to see if the Johnson County can issue a community ID that would enable people to use the services that our community offers. And it will give strength to our economy, because a lot of companies here, they hire people, they give them a debit card. Let's say you have a $300 in your debit card. It is not in the bank, so you're going to have to withdraw that money at an ATM machine, which will cost you to do that. So that's a $2 or $3 that you could have it for your family. So that's not fair. But with an ID, what's going to happen, you're going to open a bank account. You're going to deposit your money there to be safe instead of keeping money under the pillow. And hopefully, within 6 months, we're going to have the ID valid. And we would like everybody in this community, not only the immigrant or people that, for whatever reason, don't have a document, but we want everybody to be to get the IDs, even if you have already a driving license, because we want more inclusive community. We do not want to be in a community where some people are left behind. So or there is a first class people, second class. That's not a good community. So we want to be more inclusive. So that's what the center does. And I invite you to sometime stop by and interact with us. Today, for example, we're hosting the first citizenship clinic, which people are coming in. We're helping them to fill application to become an American citizen. That way they can be able to vote in the next election and have their voice heard. So
What's your address?
My address is 940 South Gilbert Court. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And Provost Butler, those IDs are really good for international students coming. The next person to speak is Royce-Ann Porter. Royce-Ann was instrumental in establishing the family-to-family partnership, which is now in its second year. She's been the steering committee member of the Coalition for Racial Justice in Johnson County. She also has been serving for the past several years as a member of the Iowa City Police Citizens Review Board. She has worked with Johnson County Disproportionate Minority Contact Committee and the Juvenile Justice Youth Development Policy Board. Early this year, she was honored by Governor Branstad with the MLK Achievement Award. In 2007, she received the Isabel Turner Award from the Iowa City Human Rights Commission. And if she looks familiar, she also ran for city council. And unfortunately, she didn't win, but keep an eye on the papers. She'll be back again. Royce-Ann will talk about race relations in Iowa.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for inviting me. When Harry called me and asked me if I would do this, I received the instructions on what I should be speaking on, and it said the future of human rights in Iowa City. Well, to me, the future of human rights in Iowa City is in progress. It's so much to be done. The future of human rights in Iowa City is continually addressed by its citizens. Iowa City has received nationwide recognition for its efforts to be inclusive across a multicultural, gender-fair community. My current employment has allowed me the opportunity to explore the availability of support systems in the Iowa City area. I have had the opportunity to work with the city, Iowa City Human Rights Commission, and they framed and published the Human Rights Ordinance. I reviewed it carefully, and I came to the conclusion that it provided critical information for me as a person of color, and it included many cultural represented in the Iowa City community. Many of you may already know that the Human Rights Ordinance speaks and provides information on discrimination in employment, credit, public accommodation, and education on the basis of race, creed, color, religion, national origin, age, sex, marital status, disability, sexual orientation, or gender identity. Some of the above directly impacts my status in the community. Also, discrimination of housing based upon race and color is extremely important to me. As a case manager at Shelter House, I have experienced firsthand the housing practices in the Iowa City community. Whenever I have had to depend on the Iowa City community support system to assist me in providing services to people in need, I have received a wealth of information and a great deal of cooperation. The Iowa City community has made great strides in including resources such as the Center for Workers' Justice, the Coalition for Racial Justice, and now the Black Voices Project. And one of the things I want to say about that, for example, there are opportunities for training in the area of leadership. I've been on the Coalition for Racial Justice. I started with that, and then out of that came the Black Voices Project. And one of the things that we speak on is so many people in the African American community call on me. It seems like I'm the only person in this community, but I'm called upon so much on issues dealing with housing, policing, and education of the Iowa City Community School District in our community. There are a lot of problems going on, and a lot of people always say, is this really happening? Yes, discrimination in our community is happening. There is so much disproportionate numbers in the school district of our African American kids being put out of the schools because of failing grades, because of fighting, and it just goes on. And I'm a part of the DMC, Disproportionate Minority Contact. I'm a part of the JJYD, the Juvenile Justice. I can name you all kinds of boards that I have been a part of for years. And I've stood up and I've been fighting for what's right. The Black Voices Project is the newest of the event, and what that is just African Americans being a part of having the awareness and knowledge of just knowing that we can stand up for ourselves and that we have rights. One of the things that we fought was this past year where the Iowa City Community School District decided to have school on Martin Luther King Day, which is a federal national holiday. Everybody, all the other West Branch, Longtree, Coralville, not Coralville, but Des Moines, everybody in the surrounding areas of the corridor did not have school, but Iowa City decided that they was gonna have school. So we stood up and we just told them what we felt, that for us, you know, Black history means a lot for us. It's not celebrated in our community like we would want it to be, but we stood up, and after they told us that last year they had planned many school events during that day, but after that, 2015 and above, there would never be another school day held on Martin Luther King. So that for us was a success. I would just like to say, it is, I say it over and over, it's a lot of people that I work with in the communities, and it's working with the Center for Workers' Justice, and there are immigrants here, and there are Sudanese people here, there are African people here, and there's so many people moving here. And you know, somebody mentioned Chicago. There are a lot of people moving here from Chicago, but every Black person that moved here is not from Chicago. But even if they were, they're coming